We've all had that feeling, right? You're sitting in the dentist chair and they say the words filling or crown. But what happens down the road when that work, well, fails? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a pretty incredible revolution that's happening in dentistry, one that's totally changing the game when it comes to saving our teeth.
Yeah, it's a fear we all kind of share, isn't it? You get some dental work done, a filling, a crown, and you just cross your fingers and hope that's it, forever. But let's be real, sometimes they don't last. And when they fail, that's when things get complicated, and you've got some big decisions to make. So, to really get a handle on this, we're looking at something you almost never get to see. These are a dentist's actual notes. We're talking about their real world thinking on how to handle failed dental work. This isn't some textbook theory, it's the stuff they're grappling with every single day. So, let's dive in and see what these notes can teach us.
All right, so here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with why this stuff fails in the first place. Then we'll look at the 4 big options your dentist has. After that, we'll compare the old way of doing things to a new, kind of revolutionary approach. We'll even check out the cool new tools that make it happen. And we'll wrap it all up with why this is so important for you and your teeth.
All right, let's get right into it. Why does dental work fail? You get a filling, you think you're all set, and then bam, there's a problem. So, what's really going on here?
So, looking at these notes, the 2 big reasons are fractures, actual cracks, and new cavities that sneak in right around the edges of the old work. But it's not always that dramatic, right? Sometimes it's just plain old wear and tear over the years. Or maybe there were tiny issues from the very beginning, like the color wasn't quite right, or there were little gaps letting bacteria in. All that stuff can lead to failure.
Okay, so once something fails, your dentist is standing at a major crossroads. They've got to make a decision, and believe me, it's not always as simple as, well, let's just drill out the old one and put in a new one. Turns out, there are really 4 main paths they can take. The first one might surprise you. Do nothing. Seriously, sometimes just monitoring a tiny chip that isn't causing any trouble is the best call. The next step up is refurbishment. Think of it like a touch-up, just polishing or smoothing things out. Then you've got repair, which is super smart. Instead of taking everything out, you just fix the one little part that's broken. It's a much smaller, more targeted fix. And then you have the big one, replacement. And that means drilling out the whole thing and starting from scratch. Now, for a long, long time, that last option, complete replacement, was pretty much the default. It was the standard play in the old dental playbook. And this was all because of a philosophy that, well, it saw the tooth less as something precious to be saved and more like just a platform to hold a filling.
And these notes are just wow. They really show that old school thinking in action. The key phrase here is mechanical retention. See, dentists were taught to drill specific shapes, think grooves, boxes, and undercuts, to literally lock the filling in place, kind of like a dovetail joint in woodworking. The materials back then just couldn't stick to the tooth very well, so they had to physically wedge it in there.
And this quote, this just says it all, doesn't it? Longevity of restoration was in consideration more than the tooth itself. I mean, let that sink in. The goal was to make the filling last as long as possible, even if it meant drilling away perfectly healthy parts of the tooth to do it. The filling was the star of the show, not the actual tooth it was supposed to be saving. And the result of that thinking? It's pretty shocking. To prep a tooth for a standard old-school crown, a dentist might have to remove up to 75% of the original tooth. I mean, just picture that. 3/4 of your healthy tooth just gone. Drilled away forever just to fit a cap on top. It's wild.
But, and this is the really good news, that old playbook is being tossed out. There's a new way of thinking that is completely flipping the script. It's a total revolution, and it's called biomimetic dentistry. So, what is biomimetic? Well, bio means life, right? And mimetic means to imitate or copy. So, put it together, biomimetic dentistry is all about imitating life. It's the art of restoring teeth by copying nature as closely as possible. The #1 goal is to stop tooth loss and preserve what you've got. In this new story, the tooth is finally the hero.
So here it is, the side-by-side. It couldn't be clearer. The old playbook, it was all about making the filling last, which meant drilling more to create those mechanical locks. The biomimetic way, it's all about making the tooth last, which means drilling less and using modern bonding to preserve every bit of healthy tooth you can. It's a huge shift. Really, it's like going from aggressive carpentry to careful conservation.
Now, this whole new philosophy, this save the tooth at all costs idea, it would be just a nice dream without the right tools. It's only possible because of some absolutely incredible new materials. So let's peek inside the modern dentist's new toolkit. So here's the cool part. Your natural tooth isn't just one solid thing. Think about it. You've got that super hard outer shell, the enamel, and then underneath you have a slightly softer, more flexible layer called dentin. It's like a built-in shock absorber. The whole goal of the new approach is to copy that. So they use strong, glass-like ceramics to replace the enamel, and then they use more flexible composite materials to replace the dentin. You're literally rebuilding the tooth layer by layer, just like nature did.
And this is why saving tooth structure is so important. This chart shows it perfectly. Look, a brand new healthy tooth is at 100% strength. If you do a small filling just on the top chewing surface, you lose about 20% of that strength. Not too bad. But look what happens with a bigger, more traditional filling that cuts across the top and down the sides. You lose over 60% of the tooth strength. It becomes way more fragile and likely to crack down the road.
And that brings us to the materials themselves. This is where the choices get really interesting. On one hand, you have something like zirconia. It is insanely strong, like off the chart strong. But it's also super rigid, almost like a rock. It doesn't flex like a real tooth. Then you have these new hybrid ceramics. Now they're not as crazy strong, but, and this is the key, they have an elasticity that's a lot more like your natural tooth. They can absorb shock, they bond better, and that makes them much more biomimetic. So it's this trade-off. Do you go for pure brute strength or for something that acts more like the real thing?
Okay, so we've gone through a lot here. Old school thinking, new philosophies, advanced materials. But let's bring it all home. What does this actually mean for you, sitting in that dentist chair? The benefits are massive, honestly. It means less drilling. It means more of your own healthy tooth stays right where it belongs, in your mouth. Your teeth are stronger and way less likely to fracture in the future. And maybe the biggest thing, it helps you break out of that restorative cycle, where each new filling is bigger than the last one until there's nothing left. This approach is all about keeping your natural teeth healthy and working for your entire life. And they feel more like real teeth, too. So the next time you find yourself at the dentist, you're not just a patient anymore. You're an informed partner in your own health. There's been a massive shift in dentistry from just replacing broken parts to preserving the whole amazing system. So the real question you should be asking is, which philosophy is your dentist using?